The air was so dry it felt like 1,000 tiny knives against the skin. Even through his protective exosuit, Commander Reltrax could feel the relentless heat of the desolate wasteland. The planet, designated Arid 7, stretched endlessly in every direction, a canvas of cracked earth and lifeless dunes. To the Elithrani, a species accustomed to thriving on lush, water-rich worlds, this place was a nightmare. Reltrax clicked his mandibles in irritation as he scanned the horizon. "This is absurd," he muttered, his voice modulating through the translator embedded in his suit. "No species could survive here, let alone transform it into something habitable. Terraforming is a myth perpetuated by desperate fools." "Commander," came the calm voice of his human counterpart, Dr. Elena Carter, through the comm link. She was several meters ahead, crouched over a cluster of instruments set up on a patch of particularly parched ground. "You might want to hold off on judgment until you see the data." Reltrax approached her, his multi-limbed gait leaving shallow imprints in the brittle soil. "Data won't change what's in front of my eyes, Doctor. This planet is a graveyard. Your species is wasting its time." Dr. Carter straightened, brushing dust off her knees. Her weathered face was streaked with perspiration, but her eyes gleamed with determination. "You Elithrani always see the glass as half empty, don't you? Or maybe just empty altogether." Reltrax's mandibles twitched. "We are pragmatists. Wasting resources on impossible projects is not in our nature." Dr. Carter smiled faintly. "Well, lucky for you, it's in ours." Before Reltrax could respond, a low rumble echoed across the desert. The ground beneath them trembled, subtle at first but quickly growing stronger. He instinctively widened his stance, his claws digging into the ground for stability. "What now?" he demanded, his compound eyes scanning for threats. "Relax," Dr. Carter said, grinning. "It's just the pumps starting up." This opening sets the tone with an intense, atmospheric description and introduces the skepticism of the alien character. "Let's check the initial character count." Reltrax watched in disbelief as massive drilling rigs, hidden beneath layers of sand, sprang to life. Their metallic arms rotated with deliberate precision, drawing resources from the depths of the planet. Nearby, pipelines groaned as water, long buried and forgotten, surged to the surface. "You had this infrastructure in place all along?" Reltrax asked, his voice laced with incredulity. Dr. Carter nodded, her expression a mix of pride and exhaustion. "We started laying the groundwork 2 years ago. This is phase 3 of the project, bringing the water table back to life." Reltrax's mandibles clicked rhythmically as he processed the information. 2 years of effort, and for what? A trickle of water in a wasteland that cannot sustain life. Dr. Carter tilted her head, the corners of her mouth twitching upward. "You really think we'd go through all this trouble without a plan? This isn't just about water. It's about creating an environment where ecosystems can thrive." She gestured toward a series of domed structures in the distance, their translucent surfaces glinting under the harsh sunlight. "Those biomes contain genetically engineered plant life, adapted to survive in extreme conditions. Once the water starts flowing consistently, we'll introduce the flora and let nature do the rest." Reltrax's skepticism deepened. "And you expect these plants to transform an entire planet?" Dr. Carter's smile widened. "You bet." The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. Reltrax observed as human engineers, scientists, and laborers worked tirelessly to expand the water distribution network. Each step of the process seemed more audacious than the last, from the deployment of solar-powered pumps to the strategic placement of artificial reservoirs. Despite his doubts, Reltrax couldn't help but admire the humans' determination. Their methods were unconventional, even chaotic, but there was an undeniable logic to their madness. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Reltrax found himself standing by one of the reservoirs. The air was cooler now, the oppressive heat of the day giving way to a gentle breeze. Dr. Carter approached, holding a small, sealed container. "Care to see something amazing?" she asked, her eyes glinting with excitement. Reltrax inclined his head. "What is it?" Without answering, Dr. Carter opened the container and carefully poured its contents into the reservoir. Tiny, bioluminescent organisms spread across the water's surface, casting an ethereal glow that illuminated the surrounding area. "They're called microflora," she explained. "They'll help oxygenate the water and pave the way for more complex life forms." Reltrax stared at the glowing reservoir, a flicker of curiosity breaking through his skepticism. "Your species' ingenuity is unexpected." Dr. Carter laughed softly. "I'll take that as a compliment. This expansion introduces more action, scientific details, and a growing sense of intrigue. Let's check the updated character count." As weeks turned into months, the desert began to show signs of change. Small patches of greenery emerged around the reservoir, reservoirs, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the barren landscape. Birds, drawn by the promise of water, circled overhead, their cries breaking the eerie silence that had once defined arid 7. Reltrax, who had initially kept his distance from the human team, found himself drawn to their work. He began asking questions, tentative at first but gradually more detailed. The humans, to their credit, welcomed his curiosity, explaining their methods with patience and enthusiasm. One afternoon, as the team worked to expand the irrigation system, Reltrax approached Dr. Carter. "Your progress is noteworthy," he admitted, "but there are still variables you cannot control. The planet's climate, for instance. What if the atmospheric conditions undo your efforts?" Dr. Carter wiped her brow and gave him a knowing smile. "That's why we're introducing atmospheric stabilizers next week. They'll help regulate temperature and humidity, creating a microclimate around the biomes." Reltrax's mandibles twitched in thought. "You've accounted for everything, haven't you?" "Not everything," she said, her smile fading slightly, "but enough to give us a fighting chance." Despite the progress, not all was smooth sailing. One night, a violent sandstorm swept across the desert, tearing through equipment and burying weeks of work under layers of dust. The storm raged for hours, and by the time it subsided, the team was left to pick up the pieces. Reltrax watched as the humans, undeterred by the setback, began the arduous task of digging out the pipelines and repairing the damage. Their resilience was astounding, and for the first time, he felt a pang of admiration. Dr. Carter, her face streaked with dirt, approached him as he surveyed the damage. "You're awfully quiet," she said, her voice tinged with exhaustion. "I am considering the tenacity of your species," he replied. "You persist, even when the odds are against you." She chuckled. "That's humanity in a nutshell. Stubborn to a fault." Reltrax tilted his head, his compound eyes reflecting the dim light of the moon. "Perhaps it is not stubbornness, but courage." Dr. Carter looked at him, her expression softening. "Coming from you, that means a lot." As the project entered its final phase, the desert underwent a transformation that bordered on the miraculous. The reservoirs expanded into interconnected lakes, their waters teeming with life. Trees, shrubs, and flowering plants spread across the landscape, creating a patchwork of greenery that seemed to breathe life into the once dead world. For Reltrax, the change was both awe-inspiring and humbling. He had spent his entire life dismissing terraforming as a human folly, yet here it was proof that the impossible could be achieved. One evening, as the team gathered to celebrate the completion of the project, Dr. Carter raised a glass of rehydrated wine. "To Arid 7, she said, her voice filled with pride. "May it thrive for generations to come." The humans cheered, their laughter echoing across the oasis. Reltrax, who had always found such displays of emotion baffling, found himself clapping his claws together in approval. Dr. Carter approached him, her glass raised. "To you, Commander," she said, "for keeping an open mind." Reltrax hesitated, then nodded. "And to you, Doctor, for proving me wrong." They clinked their glasses, the gesture a quiet acknowledgement of the journey they had shared. This section delves deeper into the challenges and triumphs of the terraforming project, emphasizing character growth and the evolving relationship between Reltrax and Dr. Carter. Let's check the updated character count. As the Oasis expanded, news of the project spread across the galaxy. Scientists, diplomats, and even skeptics from various species visited Arid 7 to witness the transformation firsthand. Among them were representatives of the Elethrani High Council, who had long dismissed human terraforming efforts as futile. Reltrax found himself acting as an intermediary, guiding the Elethrani delegation through the project's key sites. It was a role he had not anticipated, but one he approached with a newfound sense of purpose. "Commander," one of the counselors said, her tone skeptical as she examined the lush greenery surrounding them, "this is impressive, but it is a controlled environment. What assurance do we have that it will endure?" Reltrax straightened, his mandibles clicking with resolve. "This project is not merely an experiment. It is a demonstration of what can be achieved through collaboration and determination. The humans have accounted for variables we once deemed insurmountable. To dismiss their efforts would be to deny the evidence before your eyes." The counselor frowned but said nothing, her gaze lingering on a grove of trees swaying gently in the breeze. Meanwhile, the human team faced new challenges. The introduction of fauna to the Oasis ecosystem proved more complex than anticipated. Some species adapted well, while others struggled to survive in the artificial environment. Dr. Carter and her team worked tirelessly to fine-tune the balance, their days filled with trial and error. Reltrax, who had once been a passive observer, now actively participated in the problem-solving process. His keen analytical mind and Elethrani expertise proved invaluable, and his contributions earned him the respect of the human team. One evening, as they worked to stabilize a population of amphibians in one of the lakes. Dr. Carter turned to him with a smile. You know, you're not half bad at this. Reltrax's mandibles twitched in what she had come to recognize as a sign of amusement. I have merely adapted to the situation. It is what my species excels at. Well, she said, you're doing a damn good job. The turning point came when a sudden heat wave threatened to undo months of progress. Temperatures soared to dangerous levels, evaporating water from the lakes and causing widespread stress among the plant and animal populations. The team scrambled to implement emergency measures, but the situation grew increasingly dire. Reltrax watched as the humans worked around the clock, their determination unwavering despite the odds. He felt a pang of guilt, remembering his earlier dismissal of their efforts. Now, he saw their resilience not as stubbornness, but as a profound strength. Doctor, he said, approaching Dr. Carter as she coordinated the response efforts. What can I do to assist? She looked up, her face streaked with sweat and exhaustion. We need to reinforce the atmospheric stabilizers. If we can bring the temperature down, we might be able to save the lakes. Reltrax nodded. Consider it done. Together, they led a team to the stabilizer array, braving scorching winds and relentless heat. The repairs were arduous, but their combined efforts paid off. Within hours, the temperature began to stabilize, and the Oasis showed signs of recovery. The ordeal left the team physically and emotionally drained, but it also brought them closer together. Reltrax, who had once viewed humans as impulsive and irrational, now saw them as kindred spirits, driven by a shared desire to overcome the impossible. As the first stars appeared in the evening sky, the team gathered by the largest lake to celebrate their hard-won victory. Dr. Carter raised a toast, her voice filled with pride and gratitude. To Arid 7, she said, and to everyone who believed in its potential, even when it seemed impossible. Reltrax, holding a glass of rehydrated wine, raised it high. To collaboration, he said, his voice resonating with conviction. And to the light of hope that guides us all. The team erupted into cheers, their laughter echoing across the Oasis. For Reltrax, it was a moment of profound clarity, a realization that the bonds they had forged were as vital as the Oasis itself. This section introduces new challenges, strengthens the theme of collaboration, and deepens the bond between the characters. Let's check the updated character count. Despite the progress, whispers of doubt lingered among the Elethrani High Council. They viewed the Oasis as an anomaly, a fleeting success that could not be replicated. Their reluctance to invest in similar projects elsewhere in the galaxy frustrated both Reltrax and Dr. Carter. They fear failure, Reltrax explained one evening as he and Dr. Carter walked along the shore of the largest lake. The Elethrani value certainty above all else. To them, risk is a sign of recklessness. Dr. Carter sighed, her gaze fixed on the shimmering water. But without risk, there's no reward. How can they not see that? Reltrax tilted his head, his reflective eyes narrowing in thought. Perhaps they need to see more than just the reward. They need to understand the cost of inaction. The following day, Reltrax proposed a bold idea, inviting a delegation of Elethrani scientists and policymakers to spend a week living in the Oasis. Let them experience the transformation firsthand, he said. Only then will they grasp its significance. Dr. Carter hesitated. It's a gamble. What if they still refuse to see the value? Then we will have lost nothing, Reltrax replied. But if they do, it could change everything. The delegation arrived a month later, their skepticism evident in every calculated movement and wary glance. Reltrax and Dr. Carter greeted them with professionalism and patience, guiding them through the Oasis and explaining the intricate systems that sustained it. At first, the Elethrani visitors remained aloof, their questions laced with doubt. But as the days passed, their demeanor began to shift. They marveled at the vibrant ecosystems, the harmonious interplay of flora and fauna, and the ingenuity of the technology that made it all possible. One evening, as the delegation gathered for a meal by the lake, one of the counselors, a stern figure named Valrin, approached Reltrax. You were right, she admitted, her voice low. This place is not just an oasis. It is a beacon of possibility. Reltrax inclined his head, his mandibles clicking softly. And yet, it is but the beginning. Imagine what could be achieved if we dared to dream beyond our fears. Valrin nodded slowly, her gaze lingering on the distant horizon. Perhaps it is time for the Elethrani to embrace a new way of thinking. The breakthrough with the delegation marked a turning point. The Elethrani High Council, swayed by the first-hand accounts of their representatives, approved funding for a series of terraforming initiatives across the galaxy. The decision sent ripples through the interstellar community, inspiring other species to follow suit. For Dr. Carter and her team, it was a moment of triumph. Their work had not only transformed Arid 7 but had also also sparked a movement that would reshape the galaxy. Reltrax, who had once been a skeptic, now stood as one of the project's most ardent advocates. He traveled from world to world, sharing the story of Arid, Seven, and encouraging others to believe in the power of transformation. Years later, as the Oasis flourished and expanded, Reltrax and Dr. Carter reunited for a commemorative event marking the project's 10th anniversary. The Oasis, now teeming with life, had become a symbol of hope and resilience. Standing by the lake, Reltrax turned to Dr. Carter. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had given up? If the storm, the setbacks, or the doubts had convinced you to abandon this place?" Dr. Carter smiled, her face lined with years of hard work and determination. "Not for a second. Giving up was never an option." Reltrax nodded, his reflective eyes shimmering in the twilight. "Your species has taught me much, Doctor. Not just about terraforming, but about courage, adaptability, and the value of hope. And you've taught us," she said, her voice soft, "that even the most skeptical minds can learn to believe." They stood in silence, watching as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the Oasis in a golden glow. For Reltrax, the scene was a reminder that even in the harshest environments, life could find a way. This expansion builds toward the climax and resolution, emphasizing the impact of the project and its broader implications. Let's check the updated character count. As the years passed, the story of Arid 7 became a legend, a tale of resilience, collaboration, and the power of daring to believe. The Oasis, once an isolated project, became the blueprint for a galaxy-wide movement to rehabilitate barren worlds and restore ecological balance. Reltrax, now a celebrated ambassador for terraforming initiatives, found himself at the center of a growing network of scientists, engineers, and visionaries. His name, once synonymous with skepticism, became a symbol of transformation. But despite the accolades and successes, Reltrax never forgot the moments that had shaped him. The storm that tested their resolve, the glowing reservoir that sparked his curiosity, and the unwavering determination of Dr. Carter and her team. One day, during a rare moment of solitude, Reltrax returned to Arid 7. The Oasis had grown beyond recognition, its once modest lakes now sprawling waterways surrounded by dense forests and vibrant meadows. He walked along a familiar path, his claws clicking softly against the ground, and paused by the largest lake. Dr. Carter joined him moments later, her hair streaked with gray but her spirit as indomitable as ever. "Back where it all began," she said, her voice tinged with nostalgia. Reltrax inclined his head. "It is remarkable to think how far we have come. This place was once a barren wasteland, and now it is a sanctuary." Dr. Carter smiled. "It's a testament to what we can achieve when we work together. But the work isn't done. There are still so many worlds out there waiting for their chance." Reltrax turned to her, his reflective eyes narrowing. "And we will give them that chance. If Arid 7 has taught us anything, it is that hope is never misplaced." They stood in silence, watching as a flock of birds took flight, their wings catching the golden light of the setting sun. For Reltrax, the scene was a reminder of the journey they had shared, a journey that had transformed not just a desert, but the very fabric of their understanding. Decades later, the Oasis became a pilgrimage site for those seeking inspiration. Visitors from across the galaxy walked its trails, marveled at its beauty, and reflected on the lessons it embodied. Among them were young students, their eyes wide with wonder as they learned about the visionaries who had made it possible. A plaque at the entrance to the Oasis bore an inscription, its words etched in multiple languages. "In the face of desolation, we dared to dream. In the shadow of doubt, we found hope." Let this Oasis stand as a reminder that even the harshest landscapes can be transformed, and that within us all lies the power to create something extraordinary. For Reltrax and Dr. Carter, the legacy of Arid 7 was not just a testament to their efforts. It was a beacon of what could be achieved when boundaries were pushed, minds were opened, and the impossible was embraced. This expansion adds epilogue-style reflections and solidifies the legacy of Arid 7, enriching the emotional and thematic resonance of the story. Let's check the updated character count. Years after the Arid 7 transformation, a new challenge emerged, replicating its success on worlds with more extreme conditions. Planets with corrosive atmospheres, glacial surfaces, and toxic soil presented obstacles that even the most advanced technology struggled to overcome. Reltrax became a leading advocate for tackling these challenges, arguing that the lessons of Arid 7 could be adapted and expanded. "The galaxy is filled with places that were written off as lost causes," he said during an Interstellar summit. "But if we have learned anything, it is that no world is beyond redemption." The summit, held on a space station orbiting a dying star, brought together representatives from dozens of species. Among them was a young Elethrani scientist named Velrix, who approached Reltrax after his speech. "Commander, Velric said, his voice tinged with awe. Your work has inspired a new generation of Elithrani. For centuries, we have clung to our traditions, fearing change. But you have shown us that change is not to be feared, it is to be embraced. Reltrax's mandibles twitched in what could almost be called a smile. The path forward is never easy, young one, but it is always worth taking. Back on Arid 7, the Oasis continued to thrive, its ecosystems evolving in ways even Dr. Carter had not anticipated. New species of plants and animals emerged, some adapting to the unique conditions of the artificial environment, while others flourished in ways that mirrored natural evolution. Dr. Carter, now retired, spent her days documenting these changes, her notebooks filled with sketches and observations. One afternoon, as she sat beneath the shade of a towering tree, she was joined by a group of students on a field trip. Is it true you helped create this place? One of the children asked, their wide eyes filled with wonder. Dr. Carter smiled, her gaze drifting to the lake. I didn't do it alone, she said. It was a team effort, and it wasn't just about science. It was about believing in something bigger than ourselves. Another child raised their hand. What do you think was the most important part? Dr. Carter considered the question carefully. The most important part, she said slowly, was not giving up. Even when it seemed like everything was working against us, we kept going. Because we knew that every small step mattered. The legacy of Arid 7 extended beyond its physical transformation. It sparked a cultural shift, encouraging species across the galaxy to rethink their relationship with their environments. Songs, poems, and artworks celebrating the project became popular, each one capturing a different aspect of its story. One such piece, a holographic mural created by an Elithrani artist, depicted the Oasis as a living, breathing entity. It showed the barren desert giving way to vibrant greenery, the transformation unfolding like a time-lapse across the stars. At its center stood two figures, an Elithrani and a human, holding a glowing orb of light between them. Reltrax, who attended the mural's unveiling, was deeply moved by the depiction. It is a powerful reminder, he said, that the bonds we forge are as vital as the worlds we create. In his later years, Reltrax returned to Iliera, his home world, to reflect on the journey that had shaped his life. Standing beneath the shimmering auroras of his youth, he felt a sense of peace he had not known in decades. Dr. Carter, now in her final years, sent him a message from Earth. I hear Iliera is as beautiful as ever, she wrote. I hope you find the same sense of wonder there that you brought to Arid 7. Reltrax responded with a simple yet heartfelt reply. The wonder is not in the place, but in the journey. Thank you for being part of mine. As the galaxy continued to evolve, the story of Arid 7 remained a beacon of hope. It reminded people that even the most desolate places could be transformed, and that within each of them lay the potential to create something extraordinary. And so, beneath the light of countless stars, the legacy of Arid 7 endured, a testament to the power of collaboration, resilience, and the enduring belief that no world was beyond saving. This expansion weaves in broader implications, legacy themes, and personal reflections to deepen the story. Let's check the updated character count. The ripple effects of Arid 7's success were felt across the galaxy, but the journey was far from over. On the outer fringes of known space, a coalition of scientists prepared to embark on the most ambitious terraforming project yet, the transformation of Raxilin 3, a planet with an atmosphere so corrosive that even machines struggled to function. Reltrax was invited to join the advisory council for the project, and while his years of active fieldwork were behind him, he accepted the role with a sense of duty. Every new challenge is an opportunity to grow, he told the council during their first meeting. The lessons we learned on Arid 7 must guide us, but we must also be prepared to adapt. The Raxilin 3 project faced setbacks almost immediately. Storms of acidic rain ravaged the equipment, and the planet's unstable magnetic field interfered with communication systems. For months, progress was painstakingly slow, and morale among the team began to falter. Reltrax, observing from the command station orbiting the planet, recognized the signs of doubt creeping in. He requested a direct meeting with the team, addressing them with the authority and empathy he had honed over decades. I understand your frustration, he began, his voice calm yet firm. There were times on Arid 7 when we believed we had reached the limits of our endurance. But it was in those moments that we found our greatest strength. This is not just a project. It is a testament to our belief in what is possible. His words resonated, igniting a renewed sense of purpose among the team. Slowly but surely, they began to make headway, developing innovative solutions to counter the planet's harsh conditions. It was a reminder that the spirit of resilience and collaboration that had defined Arid 7 could thrive even in the face of unprecedented challenges. Meanwhile, on Arid 7, the Oasis continued to evolve in ways that defied expectations. A new species of flowering plants emerged, their vibrant blooms capable of absorbing and neutralizing trace toxins in the air. The discovery drew scientists from across the galaxy, eager to study the plant's unique properties. Dr. Carter, now a revered figure in the scientific community, returned to Arid 7 for what would be her final visit. Accompanied by her grandchildren, she walked the trails she had helped create, marveling at how the Oasis had grown beyond anything she had imagined. As she sat by the lake, one of her grandchildren, a curious boy named Ethan, asked, "Grandma, do you think there will ever be a time when every planet looks like this?" Dr. Carter smiled, her eyes reflecting the golden hues of the sunset. "Maybe not every planet, Ethan, but if we keep trying, if we keep believing, we can bring life to places that need it the most." Reltrax and Dr. Carter's paths crossed one final time during a galactic summit on environmental restoration. By then, both were considered legends, their names synonymous with the transformative power of collaboration. During the summit's closing ceremony, they stood side by side as a holographic map displayed the network of terraformed worlds that had emerged over the past decades. Each glowing point on the map represented not just a restored planet, but a beacon of hope. "Do you ever wonder what's next?" Dr. Carter asked, her voice filled with quiet wonder. Reltrax tilted his head, his compound eyes shimmering. "The beauty of the unknown, Doctor, is that it is limitless. There will always be more to discover, more to create, and more to believe in." Dr. Carter nodded, her expression serene. "Then let's keep moving forward. This expansion adds more challenges, interstellar implications, and a deeply satisfying emotional resolution. Let's check the updated character count to see how close we are to the goal." As the decades turned into centuries, the legacy of Arid 7 became a cornerstone of galactic education. Schools across countless worlds taught the story of the Oasis, using it as a case study in perseverance, innovation, and the power of unity. Holographic recreations of the planet's transformation were among the most popular exhibits at interstellar museums. One such exhibit, located in the Galactic Center Museum of Progress, featured a life-sized replica of the original Oasis. Visitors could walk through the simulated environment, feeling the cool breeze and hearing the gentle rustle of leaves. At the center of the exhibit stood a statue of Reltrax and Dr. Carter, their hands outstretched as if presenting the Oasis to the galaxy. A plaque beneath the statue bore the words, "To dream beyond the possible is to create the extraordinary." For Reltrax's descendants, the legacy was deeply personal. His great-granddaughter, Veltrax, followed in his footsteps as an environmental ambassador, traveling to worlds on the brink of collapse to advocate for restoration projects. "My great-grandfather taught me that no challenge is too great when approached with courage and collaboration," she often said. On Earth, Dr. Carter's descendants carried on her work as well, founding the Carter Institute for Environmental Innovation. The institute became a hub for cutting-edge research, attracting minds from across the galaxy who sought to push the boundaries of what was possible. But the story of Arid 7 was not without its cautionary lessons. As terraforming initiatives expanded, some projects faced unforeseen consequences. On Lumar 5, an overly aggressive introduction of engineered flora led to an ecological imbalance that wiped out native species. On Viralon 2, an ambitious attempt to replicate Arid 7's microclimate failed due to a lack of understanding of the planet's unique geological factors. Reltrax and Dr. Carter had warned of such risks during their lifetimes, emphasizing the importance of thorough research and careful planning. Their words echoed in the halls of scientific councils, serving as a reminder that progress required humility as well as determination. "These setbacks are not failures," Veltrax said during a speech at the Galactic Council. "They are opportunities to learn and grow." The journey of Arid 7 was not without its challenges, and neither will the journeys to come. But we must continue to move forward, guided by the lessons of the past. On the 500th anniversary of the Arid 7 project, a grand celebration was held on the planet, now officially renamed Oasis 7. Delegations from every corner of the galaxy attended, their diverse cultures and traditions blending in a vibrant display of unity. The event featured speeches, performances, and a holographic presentation that recounted the planet's transformation in stunning detail. Among the highlights was a message from the descendants of both Reltrax and Dr. Carter, who had worked together to organize the celebration. "Today, we honor not just the achievement of Arid 7, Veltrax said during the closing ceremony, but the spirit of collaboration that made it possible. Let this be a reminder that the challenges we face are not insurmountable. Together, we can overcome them." As the ceremony concluded, the sky above Oasis 7 was illuminated by a breathtaking display display of lights, a tribute to the beacons that had once guided travelers across the desert. For those who witnessed it, the moment was a powerful reminder of what could be achieved when hope and determination were combined. This expansion enriches the legacy and cultural impact of Arid 7, pushing the story closer to the 40,000 character mark. Let's check the updated character count.